Well, good evening to everyone. Thanks for joining us here today and welcome. I would also like to give a warm welcome to our elected officials who are present with us today. Please note, we do have a link posted in the chat, so you could access the presentation that will be utilized today, as well as if you want to bookmark that link, we will provide additional materials in the future. As we go along the presentation, feel free to place questions you may have in the chat, and we will have a Q&A session at the end of this presentation. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. We were waiting a little bit to get additional participants from the community, but we want to conclude at 8 o'clock, and to be respectful of your time, we will go ahead and get started. So again, welcome. It's truly a privilege to be able to come before you today. Thank you all for attending. I am Maria Hauser, and just over 2 years ago, I joined the DeKalb County team from a law firm to manage the consent decree and the broader CIP, since I have a bit of an engineering background and business background in addition to law. But we are here this afternoon to provide everyone in the community with information regarding what is being called the Tilly Mill Realignment Project. This project is really significant because it is the first priority fix list project to be undertaken since the entry of the modified consent decree last week. So you're probably like, what's the priority fix list? What's the modified consent decree? Well, as you're going to hear during this presentation, the water and sewer infrastructure in DeKalb County, like other cities and other counties throughout the US, that infrastructure has been neglected for decades. And one symptom of that neglect is sewer spills in the community, especially during wet weather. So for instance, sewage that's in pipe actually come out of the pipes and eventually end up in the waterways. So last week in federal court, Judge Grimberg entered an agreement between the Department of Justice, the Environmental Protection Agency, Georgia's Attorney General's Office, and the Georgia Environmental Protection Division as to how DeKalb will proceed in fixing its deteriorated sewer system. And that agreement is known as the consent decree, and we'll hear more about it as we go on. Now, specific in that document, we highlighted 103 repeat sewer spill sites, and Tilly Mill, the Tilly Mill location is actually listed as site number 22. So DeKalb County is required by the court, by the Department of Justice, by EPA, by EPD, in that agreement to correct the deficiencies in the sewer system in your community within a 2 to 4 year window. Now, just to give you a quick, brief rundown of the agenda, we have a lot of experts here that are willing to share information with you regarding the project and to answer your questions. And you could see the names of my colleagues and their area of expertise on the slide in front of you. But before we get started with the history, the introduction of the Department of Watershed Management and the project, I would like to have our Commissioner, Patrick, who sits on the Public Works and Infrastructure Committee. And that committee essentially overlooks the whole infrastructure. He has been supportive and has reviewed all the efforts regarding rebuilding our infrastructure. So I would like for him to share some words. Commissioner Patrick.
Thank you, Maria. I sure appreciate that. To the residents, I know this is our second swing at introducing the Tilly Mill project. I thought it was critical that with the idea the courts were possibly going to be approving the consent decree and the capital improvement projects, I thought that we should really pull out some of the heavy hitters, such as Maria. We've got our Chief Operating Officer, Zach Williams, and some other gentlemen with us, and ladies, that are very knowledgeable and have put in several years trying to work through the consent decree. The value of having sewer system that doesn't spill is our parks are fun to go to. It's safe to play in our waterways still. And at the end of the day, we do have a way of attracting economic development to our community, which is critical. Again, if you're not growing, you're kind of dying. And this right here is the infrastructure that's going to be necessary to keep us growing for the future, so that we have sort of the first place economic options for DeKalb County, not just the fourth or fifth place options. So with that, I want to say thank you again to our CEO, Zach Williams, for his putting the team together to talk about this issue again. I know there are some Doraville residents here that are going to have some good questions, and I've kind of given the team a heads up that in Doraville, we ask very direct questions and they're ready for them. And with that, COO, I'd like to turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Patrick. I definitely appreciate the introduction, and I appreciate your leadership, not only on the CIP and the issues related to water and wastewater, but on your leadership overall, and your advocacy for those constituents you represent. We definitely appreciate it. And as a matter of fact, we wouldn't be here today having another conversation but for your leadership and, quite frankly, a phone call you made to me that talked about what we did or attempted to do on September 7th, wherein I think the county could have done a better job of explaining what this project is all about, getting the advertising out, making sure people are aware of what we're doing. And so we went back to the drawing board to ensure that the residents in and around the affected area and the general public, even if they're not in the affected area, would be able to have a clear understanding of what is happening and, more importantly, why it's happening. So what I'd like to do is, one, describe a little bit of my role in the organization. As the Chief Operating Officer, I'm responsible to both the Board of Commissioners and the CEO on a daily basis. It is my responsibility to oversee and manage the daily operations of county government. That includes direct management over 40 departments, divisions, and agencies, and a budget of approximately $1.3 billion, and the service to the 750,000 residents, which include those who are affected by this Tilly Mill sewer line replacement. And as well with the leadership of the governing authority, which is the CEO and the Board of Commissioners, provide support to operations such as elections when needed, COVID response, and those sorts of things. And one of my most fulfilling jobs is I have an opportunity to work with a great team like those in watershed management. And so today what I want to do, next slide, is talk about the infrastructure that we're going to be addressing and why. And so these slides show everyone what we're dealing with. And quite frankly, they represent an aging system that has had lack of investment and has been neglected. The system has historically been neglected. You have pipes that were installed in the 50s that should have been replaced 20 years ago, that we are addressing the issues now. We see that it is our responsibility. It does not matter to you. It does not matter to us. What should have been done and who did not achieve their objectives. We're here now, and it is our responsibility to address these issues, and that's what we're going to do. Next slide. So when we look at the, to provide a context of those the pictures on the last slide, we want to look at the role of water and sewer services in the development of the county. And what you can see is, looking at this graph, it has a timeline at the bottom, starting from the founding of the county in 1822. We're coming up on our 200-year anniversary. And the population going from zero up to, in excess of 700,000. Now, the latest census, I believe, has us about 770,000. But you see these periods of rapid growth that were enabled in large part by the formation of the Department of Watershed Management. Mr. Scott Candler, in fact, was an original leader in the formation of the county through his vision in the development and implementation of the water system. But over time, what you see happened in DeKalb County, which is what happened or didn't happen throughout the nation, quite frankly. As the population grew and the demands grew, the investment didn't grow. It was not commensurate with the need. So what you have really beginning, we'd say in the 1980s primarily, as we had this accelerated growth in population and aging pipes. So at that point, a lot of the systems were between 30, 40, and some 50 years old already and should have been being replaced. The county at that time was not investing in replacing sewer pipes or drinking water, quite frankly. So you had this period of neglect beginning in the 1980s that really culminated around 2010, 2011. And that's when the federal government slapped a consent decree order on the county. What that essentially means is this: the federal government sued the county for failing to get a handle on its ongoing spills and sewer spills. And so with that, the county began efforts somewhat to invest over $1.3 billion in an original consent decree beginning in around 2011. Unfortunately, next slide, the consent decree, that progress or that project overall was delayed, and it was mired in a lot of the issues that DeKalb County had faced for probably decades, but certainly during that time period. And what those issues were was ongoing political interference, lack of appropriate oversight because of instability in the watershed director position. Then you had ongoing allegations of corruption and favoritism, that culminated in a grand jury report, I believe in 2000, that began in 2008. I think it was issued around 2011. But issue after issue showed that DeKalb County's inability to focus on what's important, what the citizens elected people for and appointed and what people for. Overall, we just weren't getting our money's worth. And we lacked transparency. A lot of this was, behind the scenes, not getting things done, and lack of procedures and protocols. So what changed? In fall of 2016, November 2016, CEO Michael Thurman was elected. And the CEO has established a well-deserved reputation as being a turnaround agent or a change agent, which is what he had done with the Department of Labor, what he did with the DeKalb County School Board to assist them in getting their accreditation back after they had lost it. And he implemented the same strategies and focus here in DeKalb County. And he insisted that we focus and we work collectively to address these issues, because it matters not to the citizen who wants to blame whom. Simply put, residents pay their water bill and they expect clean, safe drinking water, and they expect not to have sewer overflows. It's a simple covenant that we needed to honor. So what the CEO did is convene the team of leaders from throughout the county, ensure that we focused on identifying the root underlying issues to symptomatic problems in the sewer system. And it wasn't simple. We had to be willing to unpeel the onion, recognize what things needed to be done better, faster, more transparently. And that was part of the process that led us to changing in some ways the focus from focusing only on fats, oils, and grease, but focusing also on repeat wet weather spills. And that's what has brought us here to this discussion today. Additionally, part of the focus required the reorganization of the watershed management department and function, the hiring, quite frankly, of Maria Hauser, the director of the consent decree and environmental programs, who reports directly to the CEO, in order to give a focus and make it clear that this is important work and the county will be successful, period, full stop. And so what we hope to share with you today is how we are going to undertake a new day, how we are going to manage the replacement of the sewer pipes in your community with as minimal disruption as possible and maximum communication. So with that being said, what I'd like to do is have Mr. David Hayes, our Director of Watershed Management, give an overview of our system, who Watershed Management is, and then members of his team will take us into specific details as to how we will execute this project. Mr. Hayes?
Sorry about that. Thank you, CO Williams. As you said, my name is David Hayes. I am the Interim Director of Watershed Management, and my primary role is to facilitate the day-to-day operations of Watershed, to coordinate the many activities that we have going on, and to provide the service, the things that the department needs to be successful. What do we do in Watershed? We service approximately 700,000 DeKalb County residents. We are allowed to take as much as 128 million gallons per day of water from the Chattahoochee River to treat for drinking. We currently average 70 million gallons per day of drinking water to the DeKalb County homes and businesses. We have the ability to receive and treat 56 million gallons of sewer from homes and businesses of DeKalb County. All water and sewer is conveyed using DeKalb County's 5,000 miles of water and sewer pipe in the grounds around and throughout DeKalb. If extended, pipe to pipe, this is enough pipe to extend from Georgia to California and back again. Most homes and businesses are connected to the DeKalb County system with a pipe that is referred to as a lateral. On the DeKalb County side of the connection is the gravity sewer. The gravity sewer is the pipe that allows sewer to flow under gravity power to a wastewater treatment facility for treatment. Older laterals may crack, they break, they may have missing caps, illicit rain gutter connections, root intrusion, fats, oils, and grease can build up in them. They may even be damaged from contractors and/or construction. These issues allow unwanted rainwater to enter into our sewer system, thereby taking up much needed capacity. This also allows blockages that prevent the flow of sewer. These blockages and capacity issues are some of the things that this project will correct. Why is DeKalb replacing and repairing sewer lines again? The engineering department is leading the effort to repair and replace the county's aging infrastructure. These repairs will reduce sewer overflows and improve customer service. And that will yield an upgraded system that will allow future development and growth for DeKalb. By direction of the CEO, we have dedicated a full team to this project to include every needed resource, not just from the watershed, but from all other DeKalb County departments as well, and several industry-leading engineering and construction firms who will be led by the Watershed's engineering department. This will allow a timely, safe, and successful project. The next speakers you will hear from today are Assistant Director of Compliance, Mr. Brent Zern, who will talk about our systems assessment. And then you'll hear from the Engineering Manager, Kerry Williams, who will speak on the problems. Mr. Zern.
Thank you, Director Hayes, and thank you everybody for joining us tonight. We're glad you're here. As stated, my name is Brent Zern. I am the Assistant Director over Regulatory Compliance and Consent Decree Operations here in Watershed. As part of that, I lead a team of very talented and dedicated professionals who probably start up this whole process of understanding why we have repeat SSOs and assessing the system to figure out what data needs to be collected, evaluated, and sent on to our other teams for implementation. So I want to talk about problem assessment and some of the steps that that we go through to understand why these things are happening and what needs to be done as next steps. So some of the strategies and techniques that we use include smoke testing, and some of you may have seen this occur throughout your Tilly Mill neighborhood. You would probably notice it by small amounts of smoke coming out of the ground, or perhaps out of sewer lateral cleanouts, perhaps under sidewalks. Those are all indications that we have a breached system. We do a lot of closed circuit TV, where we put small cameras within the pipes that can assess the true condition of the pipe integrity. Of course, you know, a very low-hanging fruit is just to do visual inspection. We can see where our laterals need cap replacements. We can see where there are vented sewer lids that really need to be solid sewer lids. This helps prevent and not only overflows, but also odor control. We like to do acoustical testing, which is a very simple way of putting sound into the sewer, and depending on the pipe's dynamics, whether or not that same sound is detected on the downstream end can tell us a lot about the condition of the pipe. And then we do a lot of hydraulic modeling using all of the data that we've assembled. And after we've done our assessment, my team puts together recommendations of what we think may be the cause of the problem. These are not final solutions, because that is determined by the engineering group, who you will hear from next. But we provide recommendations that are sent on further for evaluation by Mr. Kerry Williams and his team. And so Kerry will speak next.
Good evening. My name is Kerry Williams. I am a licensed professional civil engineer and engineering manager for the DeKalb County Watershed. I oversee a very dedicated team of 13 engineers and 6 which are licensed. We are supported by 4 nationally known consulting engineering firms. And so what's the problem? The problem in the Tilly Mill area. Since 2017, there have been 10 sanitary sewer overflows in the Tilly Mill area, accounting for 450,000 gallons of sewage spilled into our waterways. The most recent being May 3rd, 2021. So what's the cause of it? I think earlier you heard Chief Operations Officer Zach Williams. He spoke about our aged infrastructure. A lot of infrastructure in the Tilly Mill area was installed around the 1950s, making it roughly about 70 plus years old. And so with age comes problems. I mean, we don't usually think about sewer pipe because it's out of sight, out of mind. But in time, we get, the director, he spoke about the cracks we get developing there and other abnormalities that we do get into our infrastructure as it ages. We also have a lack of capacity in the system. A pipe that was built for 5 homes years ago can no longer serve 500 homes that have been developed around the area now. So lack of capacity, aged infrastructure. We also have operational efficiency. Some pipes we found are reversed. They don't flow downhill, they actually want to try to flow uphill. So we get those problems as well in pipe. That causes buildup in the pipes and cause backups. Again, we have cracks, we have root intrusions. We have pipes that are on minimal slope, so we don't get the flow that we need, so we get settlement of materials in the pipes. So a lot of things contribute to a failure of our sewer system that we're working to fix. This is, as Ms. Hauser told you, a priority fix list under the consent decree program. And we will address these issues through this project. So you will hear more about this project from the PM, who is Ms. Shauna Prescott, and you will hear from her later. But now I'm going to turn this over to the program administrator, Ms. Cassandra Marshall, to tell you more about the solution to these problems.
Good evening. My name is Cassandra Marshall. I'm the CIP program administrator for Watershed Management. So to this point of the presentation, you've heard about the problem. I will speak to the solution. You may ask yourself, what does CIP stand for? Well, CIP, or Capital Improvement Project, is a project that helps maintain or improve an asset. It can either be a new construction, an expansion, renovation, or replacement of an existing infrastructure. Earlier this year, the Board of Commissioners approved a new CIP program for $2.4 billion for projects to be completed from 2021 to 2030. The department is grateful to Commissioner Patrick, who sits on the PWI committee and is partly responsible for the approval of the CIP plan. Thank you, Commissioner Patrick. The Tilly Mill Sewer Improvement Project is a $3.1 million project that is included within that CIP plan. My team, the CIP team, is responsible for getting the CIP work done. My team includes 4 DWM construction managers and 12 licensed inspectors. Later in the presentation, you will also hear from DWM construction manager for this project, Mr. Ari Kennedy, who is a licensed utility manager. Along with in-house staff, we are supported by consulting firms who help assist the county with construction management and inspection services. What we want you to know is we're here to help. We want to reduce or eliminate emergency repairs. We want to stop the spills. We want to protect the environment. And finally, after this project is complete, it will improve sustainability to the system. These improvements should last for a minimum of 70+ years. This area is a prone SSO site, but we want you to know the county has completed some immediate repairs to the system. In phase 1, the following repairs were completed. We've done some manhole rehabilitation work. There were 13 manholes identified with I&I issues. 11 of the 13 manholes were perforated lids. The county changed out those lids to solid covers to reduce stormwater intake into the system. There were 2 manholes below grade, which were raised above ground level. We've done a point repair to 1 pipe segment. We've lined 1,150 linear feet of sewer, and we've replaced 145 linear feet of pipe. Next, you will hear from the project manager, Ms. Shauna Prescott.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for joining us. My name is Shauna Prescott. I'm the project manager for the Tilly Mill Realignment Project. This evening, I will be providing you with the scope overview for this project. From 2016 to December of 2020, we have completed the survey and assessment work, reviewed all ecological impacts to the area, completed the proposed design and permitting for this project. Fall 2021, we will start with the project preparation by engaging the public. Construction will begin, and once installation is finished, restoration will commence. Planned work includes upsize approximately 45 linear feet, replace existing 8 to 12 inch pipe with new proposed 12 inch to 16 inch, jack and bore construction of approximately 900 linear feet, open cut construction of approximately 3,600 linear feet, and install 31 new manholes. This is a color-coded project map showing the impacted parcels associated with the realignment. This project map shows the Jack and Bore locations associated with the realignment, Carver Circle Connector, Peachtree Industrial Boulevard, and along Flowers Road. Methods of construction. We have chosen two types of method of construction for this particular project. Jack and Bore, trenchless method of sewer construction, dig a receiving pit and a launch pit, place the Jack and Bore machine in the sending pit. It'll cut a hole horizontally to the receiving pit without disturbing the surface above. Open cut trench excavation, traditional method of sewer construction, repair or replacement, most economical method of construction to achieve the county's desired results for gravity sewer, provides the best service suited for the scope of this project. Duration of the project. The staking limits of the disturbance has begun. Easement clearing will start October 4th and continue throughout the life of the project. Construction access preparation will start around October 7th. Construction will commence on or around October 13th in the fourth quarter of 2021, working from the downstream area, beginning at Vintage Lane, continuing upstream to the final tie-in of the project. Some work activities will continue throughout the spring of 2023. All dates are dependent on weather and site conditions. Residential impact. Some residents may be prevented from parking in their normal parking spaces on Avery Park Circle during construction activities. Residents will be notified at least 3 days in advance. We are working with the HOA to assign alternate parking locations. Traffic flow will likely be diverted during work hours, but will be restored in the evening. Residents, visitors may need to use alternate parking for a short term. Bernard Halpern Park, DWM has explored every possible option of relocating the existing sewer line from under the basketball and soccer courts to minimize the disruption to park activities. Now I'll turn it over to the construction project manager, Mr. Ari Kennedy.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Ms. Prescott. My name is Ari Kennedy, and I'm the construction project manager for the Department of Watershed Management. As Ms. Marshall stated, I'm a licensed utility manager for the state of Georgia, and I have north of 10 million linear feet of pipe in the ground under my belt. My team, which consists of inspectors, consultant project managers, and construction managers, will oversee the day-to-day operation of the Tilly Mill project. My team and I are boots on the ground and the first line of contact for the project with the ratepayers. From the first day of commencement, my team will be on site to ensure that the construction activities, which includes but not limited to clearing within the permanent and temporary easement, ensuring that erosion control and sedimentation are in place, ensuring that the contractor is installing the pipe according to the contract documents, drawings, and specifications, and ensuring that all safety measures are in place, and at the end of the day, ensuring that all trenches, holes, and equipment are backfilled and the area is secure for the day. We have reached out to residents whose property will be directly impacted by the construction activity, which the picture on the left depicts a standard or routine construction entrance. And we've reached an agreement on the restoration. Overall, the construction team will ensure that this project is completed and your property will be restored. And the picture to the left depicts the typical construction site, or I'm sorry, The picture on the right shows how your property will be restored in kind and or better. Now we'll turn back over to Ms. Cassandra Marshall, who will discuss the community awareness.
All right, as Ari stated, I will now address the community concerns. So what to expect? Unfortunately, what comes with construction are inconveniences in which we plan to try to minimize. What you're going to see is a lot of construction traffic, foot and vehicles. There will be construction workers, surveyors, county employees throughout your community. What also come with this is the parking for the crew workers. They will be parked along the streets, in your neighborhoods, and sometimes along the work zone. There will be material and equipment deliveries by means of large tractor trailers. The crews and flaggers will guide these large vehicles in and out of the communities. And as an FYI, all of the county contractors and county employees will have an identification badge. There's going to be noise. The equipment has backup alarms. The alarm has to be loud enough for the people in the work zone to hear. This is a safety mechanism. As one measure of noise reduction, we will not have equipment sitting running idle. Bypass pumps will generate noise also. This photo to the left is an actual setup of a bypass pump system. Now, the good news for this project is there will not be continuous bypass pumping since most of this project is a relocation of the existing sewer. This allows for the existing system to naturally flow, and bypass will only be required when we have to tie in spur lines. Sediments on the street. As an erosion control measure, the contractor will first install construction exit and entrances prior to starting activities. This will reduce tracking of mud on the streets, but not fully eliminate the issue. If mud is tracked on the street, the contractor will be responsible for keeping the streets clean and swept daily. Work hours. Our work hours will vary based on the location of where the crews are working. Typical work hours are from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and sometimes weekends and holidays. In high impact residential areas, we will only work from 8 to 5. And lastly, there will be clear delineation of the work zone. This is usually just shown by installing silt fence along the temporary or permanent easement and along the ingress-egress areas. Next, you will hear from Public Relations Manager, Ms. Alicia Penny.
Thank you, Ms. Marshall. Good evening, everyone. My name is Alicia Penny, and I am the Public Relations Manager responsible for communications and outreach for the department. Tonight, I will share with you the methods DWM will utilize to communicate with you about this project. But before I do that, I want to briefly recap what has occurred so far within the community. Our outreach team has engaged with residents in high impact areas. For instance, the Avery Park Homeowners Association, Dunwoody Crossing Apartments project manager, and the developer for the Carver community. Our construction and engineering teams have also worked with residents to obtain right of entry access to their properties as well.
Support the community.
Leading up to tonight's meeting, you received a notification letter describing the details of the project and informing you of tonight's meeting. Going forward, 48 to 72 hours before the beginning of construction, each homeowner will receive a door hanger like the one shown here, which will tell you the hours of work and what to expect during construction. We will also use the GovDelivery eBlast notification service to communicate with you. If you have not done so already, please take a moment now to provide us with your email address in the chat so that we can capture that information for further use. These are the touch points we will use to communicate. First, we have the project hotline, which includes a 1-800 phone number and email address. We also have a dedicated webpage for the project, which has tonight's presentation posted there, as well as some other project information. And that link is listed in the chat. We will also use Twitter and Facebook social media platforms to share updates on the project. We will finally use news releases and the county's weekly newsletter entitled The Relay to share information as needed. Other ways we will connect with you, DCTV, which is DeKalb County Television, the Nextdoor platform. We'll be posting project signs in the upcoming weeks, our contractors, and frequently asked questions, which will be posted to the website. Listed here, you will find key contact information for the project. Most important is our dedicated project hotline and email address. Also listed here are the contact names of the engineering and construction team for the project. Finally, we have listed our 24-hour dispatch number if an emergency arises outside of normal business hours. We ask that you use that 24-hour number. And with that, this concludes our presentation. But at this time, I'd like to take a moment to introduce our Chief Communications Officer for the county, Mr. Quinn Hudson.
Thank you, Alicia. Good evening, everyone. It's good to be here. And we support this project. We are supporting the community. And let's just go ahead now and get to the questions. I know you got questions, and let's get to them as quickly as possible. Thank you.